Okay. It'll be real.
It's me, Emmy. And today we're talking about spooky sponsorships in the world of podcasting, YouTube, and content creation at large. You goog. I can't film, she's too sweet. We're talking YouTube, podcast, Instagram. You've likely heard of today's sponsors. Just to be clear, I don't mean my sponsors. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm my own god. But these are ubiquitous names in the world of content creation. So I hope you'll take the information shared here today and really go forth and do some good with it, because these sponsors are way more fucked up than they would have you believe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Mama's got some new content.
I just need more time. I just need more. Just one more time.
The first sponsor we're going to be talking about today is HelloFresh. Let's not beat around the bush. You've heard of HelloFresh, and if you haven't, welcome to your first time on YouTube. This feels like a weird choice for your first video, don't you think? I mean, okay. Be careful though, ASMR is basically a rabbit hole that will somehow lead you to QAnon. In fact, you should just take that rule and run with it. Everything on YouTube will eventually lead you to QAnon, including this video. So HelloFresh is a meal subscription service that is pretty much ubiquitous as a sponsor on the likes of YouTube and all of your favorite podcasts. Having used and enjoyed HelloFresh, the news of their hiring an anti-union propaganda firm to dissuade workers from organizing is particularly troubling. According to Colorado Public Radio, 33% of workers at the Aurora HelloFresh processing plant have been injured on the job in the past year alone. In June of 2021, this year, there was apparently a really horrific accident involving 4 workers where 2 of them were gravely injured. The kicker here is that not only have professional forklift operators been raising concerns about this lack of safety precautions in that warehouse, but there were 4 other incidents in the 4 months leading up to this grave incident. The only reason anything changed after this accident was because of the press coverage and the fact that it led to unionization efforts. It's almost like HelloFresh didn't give a fuck about their worker safety until someone with a journalist badge came through. Sorry, HelloFresh, is this you? What can you expect from a company lauding diversity and inclusion and it's run by these guys? And it gets worse. At this facility alone in Aurora, 30% of workers contracted COVID in the last year. Not only was it the largest outbreak in the region directly connected to the plant, but management dodged workers' calls when they came back testing positive. And it gets worse somehow. HelloFresh is a meal subscription service, and 43% of their workers across California and Colorado facilities reported food insecurity. Know that HelloFresh workers are literally risking their lives and their limbs for $15 an hour, which was a livable wage more than 10 years ago. And I would like to think that a company claiming social responsibility would know better than to play dumb as though they don't know that. I'd love to know what these guys are making. Workers that remain at these plants report being asked to perform twice as much work with half as much staff. Despite HelloFresh claiming that they would not interfere in unionization proceedings, Dave Jamieson wrote for the Huffington Post in early October of 2021 that HelloFresh has contracted Culture Consulting to run their anti-union propaganda campaign. Jamieson wrote that the company could be spending up to $20,000 a day on these services. HelloFresh told the Huffington Post that they hired the consulting firm to, quote, present the facts, end quote, to their employees. They argue that professional unionizers will be providing information to their employees, so it's only fair that the company do so as well. After all, it makes sense to think that the resources a $200 million revenue raking in company would have would be the same as those making $15 an hour organizing a union because they literally don't want to die on the job. It makes sense to think those people would have the same resources. Yeah, it really sounds like the company that can afford to spend $20,000 a day has a lot to fucking worry about from a union propaganda campaign. Come on. But it's 2021, so of course, Culture Consulting, the firm that HelloFresh hired for these anti-union propaganda services, is not just an anti-union propaganda firm. Oh no, that would be too easy. I told you everything relates back to QAnon. And so does this. I told you, you need to be more careful, it's happening already. You didn't even make it one video, friend. Culture Media is an affiliate of Culture Consulting and is known for promoting racist, violent conspiracy theories. Naturally, a lot of this material has been scrubbed from the internet now, so you'll find HelloFresh and Culture can both play dumb if you try to take them to task for it. But you can see the reporting done by John C. in these times found some horrendously violent shit in Culture Media's social media pages. Their bangers include homophobic jokes about Pete Buttigieg and expounding the necessity of violence against socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders. Gross, sure, but what does this have to do with HelloFresh? This entire video could devolve into how specifically despicable this one company is, but we're talking about HelloFresh here today. And news of Culture Media's racist, violent, homophobic antics were not secret before HelloFresh made the move to hire them. This is a company that claims social responsibility ethics, and we should hold them to higher standards than we do other companies. They shouldn't get a free pass just because they're trying. They have branded themselves as the socially responsible meal company, and that's branding that they took upon themselves. So of course, we as consumers have both an obligation and a right to hold them to a higher standard. Fiscally supporting a company that spreads hate speech is fiscally supporting hate speech. I don't know why we should be pussyfooting around with a billion-dollar company that is not only making a profit off of the pandemic, but literally killing workers to do it. Yeah, I think there's something a little skeezy about HelloFresh on this side of their mouth claiming social responsibility and ethics and charitable giving. And then on this side of their mouth, they're fucking hiring a QAnon violent racist company to spread anti-union propaganda because they don't want to put up safety racks. What? Look, I got a big mouth, but HelloFresh has a big fucking mouth. In truth, I think the leadership at HelloFresh is probably more akin to the leadership at Culture Media than you would think. Union busting exists both to reinforce the hierarchy and to legitimize its existence through its own force. It rationalizes its own power by exerting that power over others. HelloFresh says, we just want employees to have all the information and then go out of their way to hire a propaganda firm noted for its extremism. That's not a coincidence. That is by design. If you're anti-union, you're anti-worker. Because what unions want is good for workers. And of course I'm talking about real unions, not the fake fucking bullshit that some companies set up as a straw man. And if HelloFresh is not anti-worker, what is it that they're asking for that HelloFresh is unable or unwilling to provide? And if you're gonna give them what they deserve anyway, a real living wage, not the bare minimum, a wage where they can feed themselves, safe working conditions, why does it matter if that's through a union apparatus or not? We already know the answer to that question, but you'll never hear a company answer it. Just to wrap this up, I don't give a fuck about how many free meals HelloFresh has given out. Their employees can't afford to eat. You can feed a whole goddamn country, and I still think it's wrong to ignore your workers that have been raising complaints over safety hazards in your warehouses. Or if it thinks it should be spending money on fucking union busting campaigns as opposed to just raising the average wage. Is that wrong of me to be like, fuck HelloFresh for putting on this charity facade while it literally starves and puts people in danger? If you're taking the food out of someone else's mouth behind the scenes and giving it to someone else on stage, that's not charity, that's just public relations. HelloFresh is not going to be the first greenwashing company. They're not going to be the first company to hire an anti-union consulting firm, but they sure slather all that charitable greenwashing ethical bullshit all over their site. So which is it? I'm tired of companies deciding that me being willing to pay a little extra for something ethical or sustainably sourced makes me an easy mark. Co-opting the language of social responsibility during a pandemic, though, to turn record profits and not take the safety precautions of your workers seriously, for us to learn that you literally couldn't even put a safety rack up, that 33% of workers were diagnosed with COVID that we know of because management dodged their calls. That's evil. So if and when HelloFresh union organizers call for a boycott, we definitely should then. But up until that point, the best thing we can do is signal boost and put pressure on creators that are still being sponsored by them to make a statement, to put pressure on HelloFresh itself, just keeping the momentum of the organization going. A brief scroll through BetterHelp's Better Business Bureau complaint listing will quickly illuminate you to the fact that this company is not in the business of providing you better help. Was that good? You'll find horror stories of billing issues where customers are charged hundreds of dollars months in advance and never receive services promised. But BetterHelp's wrongs are more insidious than just questionable billing practices. BetterHelp is an online counseling service offering counseling by online chat, video, or phone. BetterHelp is a business primarily operating within the confines of the United States for-profit healthcare system. So it should come as no surprise that most people found that quality of care was sacrificed in this instance for perceived cost effectiveness. Of course, healthcare should be universal and accessible to everyone at no extra cost. But BetterHelp does not operate in a vacuum. In the United States, therapy is expensive within the system for a reason. Those ultimate reasons may be unethical and are certainly worthy of examination, but it's the truth. So the people turning to BetterHelp are already in a vulnerable position, whether that's money, transportation, lack of access, proximity, privacy. There are a variety of reasons why somebody might turn to BetterHelp as opposed to a traditional therapist. It would be great if there were potential for BetterHelp to one day offer actual therapy services to its patients. However, as the model stands today, BetterHelp is basically an Uber for therapy, but worse. The counselors contracted with BetterHelp make about the same as an Uber driver, if not less. Unfortunately, red flag number one, BetterHelp is pretty obtuse with its compensation model for therapists. It's not unusual for skeezy employers. In fact, it's pretty righteous in the playbook, but I do think a company offering therapeutic services should be transparent about every aspect of their healthcare. So until BetterHelp takes the initiative to release their compensation information themselves, we're just gonna have to take the word of therapists, both current and former. BetterHelp is an engagement-based therapy model wherein therapists are paid based off of the number of interactions they have with clients. For example, in text communications, you would be paid down to the word or by message, with disastrous results, I'm sure you can imagine. You can see why therapists in this model might be concerned for the quality of care being dispersed. Okay, so what? You have wordy therapists who just want to help people making as much as an Uber driver, but what if they're one of the good ones, right? There's no harm in a pay cut, right, Emmy? Right, wrong. Therapists, counselors, and professionals in the mental health space have been ringing the alarm about apps like BetterHelp and Talkspace for a year. Because of the anonymity provided by these apps, therapists have found that even patients with suicidal ideation can just up and leave the app with no means of getting into contact with them or providing emergency assistance. And when providers raise issues like these and express concern, they find that they get canned responses over and over. And keep in mind, they're dealing with suicidal, mentally ill patients, and BetterHelp is texting them back with a canned business response as though their delivery order is going to be late. These people running BetterHelp have gone out of their way to remind us that they're not doctors, and we need to believe them. And of course, you're incentivized as a business to give your clients 24/7 access to their therapist via text, because that sounds healthy and like something a therapist would provide. Therapists have reported that there is no standard procedure in place to report patients with suicidal ideation. Let that sink in. And also, just for the record, I don't think BetterHelp should have policies on patients with suicidal ideation or those in abusive situations, because BetterHelp is a business and has no business being in those contexts. That is way beyond their purview, and that is the problem with apps like these. You cannot have a mental health app that does not account for this, but also conducts itself as a business. This is what happens when you try to pretend you can sell healthcare. It's an incompatible set of values to put patient safety and profits at the same level. We know which one BetterHelp has chosen, and it's unacceptable. But just like HelloFresh, BetterHelp has obfuscated their wrongdoings by cloaking themselves in a veneer of social responsibility. They get to do some major moral dick swinging by saying they're providing services to underserved communities where there would be a lack of service were they not there. Hurrah! And then of course no rollout is going to be perfect, as though these problems weren't totally foreseeable or literally forewarned by thousands of healthcare professionals who saw it coming. But at least these communities are getting some help, right? Even if it's substandard and puts them in active danger, right? At least they're getting something, right? Fuck off. BetterHelp isn't just making money off of its engagement-based therapy services. Oh no. BetterHelp is selling your data to companies like Facebook, and you'd like to think it was completely secure. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Yeah, if it were HIPAA secure, yeah. BetterHelp will tell you that your information is safe, and I don't think I can legally advise you that it's not. However, you should probably read this piece by the team at Jezebel. I'll have it linked in the description, and you can make up your own mind about that. HIPAA has required for medical data to be anonymized since the 90s, but Jezebel found that BetterHelp was transmitting information as granular as their sexual orientations, financial statuses, where they lived, and even when they'd last planned to kill themselves. I'm not really a stickler for how my information is shared under normal circumstances, but setting aside the fact that even dedicated HIPAA-secure hospital systems have failed and patients have been re-identified under those circumstances, it's troubling to me that BetterHelp is so obtuse surrounding the reasoning as to why those specific bits of information were shared when asked by Jezebel, so all I'm left to do is speculate wildly. While your specific identity might not be disclosed to these other apps BetterHelp is selling to, this information is still being used to classify you, and it's being used to classify you as a patient to be sold to. And as a result, the information that you share is helping classify others. Keeping in mind the problems that I outlined above, do you really trust a company like BetterHelp to be doing the ethically responsible thing with your information? BetterHelp has proven that even patients with suicidal ideation and paying their workers a reasonable living wage are not on their priorities. So what makes you think handling your information, which they purport is anonymized, why do you think that's on their priority list? Think about the next generation of advertisers, able to pinpoint teenagers down to such a granular level that they know when they're most anxious, most susceptible to sales pitches, when they're in a crisis, in what time of day they're most lonely. Imagine what advertisers can do with this information. Advertisers will be able to show you an image that they know can trigger you and then can follow up with a mental health service for profit, helping you out. That's literally the future we're looking forward to if we don't start getting answers from companies like BetterHelp that are making money off of our backs and our collective future. And of course, like I said, this is wild speculation about the future, but read that article by Jezebel. BetterHelp is intentionally obtuse at every turn. Where they legally don't have to answer a question, it seems like they go out of their way not to. That is your mental health. That is your neighbor's mental health, you know? It could be I'm being a little too mean to our socially responsible bros over here. But don't forget that when your information is for sale, the number one buyer is eventually going to be the government. Targeted ads, that's one thing. What about a targeted police state? We're already partially living the introduction of that apparatus into everyday policing. It's called data-driven policing or predictive policing, and it's definitely racist. There already have been concerns raised about how data-driven policing is just a masquerade for data-driven stereotyping. There isn't evidence I'm privy to that BetterHelp is providing any of this information to law enforcement. And I don't mean to suggest that at all. But I am suggesting that the normalization of data mining companies like BetterHelp that manage to dig deeper and deeper into our psyche are contributing to the expansion of a surveillance state. And the only thing scarier than a police surveillance state is a privately owned surveillance state, wherein the company in question refuses to answer even basic questions about what they intend to do with your information. Everything's bad. BetterHelp is one of many data mining companies giving your information to Facebook. Think about what information you're giving to BetterHelp that they're giving away. Because we already know what companies like Facebook and the harm that they can do with the information they've had thus far. Honestly, we should just be resisting the normalization of data mining at every turn until we can hold these companies accountable at every step of the process of what they do with that data. And as of right now, companies have the luxury and the privilege of saying, pass. It's insane to me that a therapy company dodges questions like this. Like, that's just, it's the year 2020. It's weird that it's our reality, that we let companies make the rules, right? That we're trusting companies with more and more of our lives, like literally with our literal mental health, and they can just opt not to answer a question. Why should we give this company that holds the granular details, the keys to thousands of people's mental health in this country alone, why should we give them any benefit of the doubt when they clearly don't give a hoot or a holler? BetterHelp. You had BetterHelp. You'd better help me find a fucking therapist. For me? I'm so tired. I don't mean to be so intense in this video. I don't know what it is lately. This stuff makes me feel so powerless. But it's not just that. It's... Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and follow me on all of my platforms, including Twitter, OnlyFans, Fansly, Pocket Stars, Instagram, and TikTok. All right, I'll see you next time for more content. Bye!